Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good buddy Ty Franck. And today we're going to bring on the bad guys. So I remember in Joe Hill's short story, I think it wasn't Full Throttle. It might have been Full Throttle, his book of short stories, but he has one in there where he talks about his dad reading him stories. And there was a comic book called Bring On the Bad Guys. You're a comic book guy. Have you heard of this comic book?
I have not.
Because I thought it was so cool. I went and looked it up, and it's a book that just focuses on the bad guys. And I thought that was interesting because I feel as if growing up that I might have been more interested in the bad guys, but just didn't really know it because the movie's always focused on the good guys. Particularly, I loved Superman. I loved the Dick Donner Superman movies. So I definitely was more into Superman, but Zod and the two other people, I thought I was fascinated with those guys because they were so weird, and the lady in the film was so sexy in the suits. And but I guess, what are we talking about today, Ty?
Well, you already said we're talking about bad guys. So in honor of the greatest bad guy that has ever existed in podcasting, Joseph, who always forgets to do the top 5 list, he's now being punished by doing an entire episode of a top 5 list about bad guys. This is the punishment Joseph has received for being the biggest villain in podcasting.
You figured me out. What can I say?
And we'll apologize. Oh, please like and subscribe and give us some love. And we'll apologize right now for our quality. I heard a little bit of the last episode with this mic, and it wasn't great. But Ty and I are both working out of town.
Yeah,
so,
and I apologize too. I'm doing 2 months of offsite work, and because of that, I don't have my podcasting set up with my good mic and my good camera and all that crap. All I've got is my little laptop and this shitty travel headset that I've got with me. So, in a way, you and I, Wes, are the bad guys of this particular story.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was a bad guy, it would just be a henchman, right? Like somebody else would be the main bad guy. I'd just be that guy in the background.
Yeah, the bad guy that's just kind of, what time is lunch? And then, okay, what do you want? What do I need to do? This guy, we're gonna beat this guy up.
How shoot this guy? Oh, okay, let me get my gun.
Yeah. All right, yeah. All right, cool. Let me do this. Da, da, da. And then complaining about the hours to his other friends.
Oh, like, absolutely. I already shot 3 guys today, and I haven't had my break yet.
Arguing about our pensions. Okay, so here's the list.
Well, I think before we do the list, what we should talk about, you already started it, and I think this is a good place to start, is what defines a great bad guy. In fiction, there's the concept of the protagonist and the antagonist. And the only thing the antagonist has to do is oppose the protagonist. That's all they do. So at the most basic level, when you dig down to the very bottom of it, the villain is just the person who's opposing the hero. That's not that interesting. And I think you can tell how sophisticated storytelling is by the level in which the antagonist has more nuance than just they oppose the hero. Does the antagonist want things for themselves? Are they trying to achieve things? Are they justifying the things they're trying to achieve with what they think are good reasons, even though those things are things the protagonist is opposed to? That's where we really get into the more sophisticated storytelling. And I am here to argue that there are good villains at every level of that. There are good villains who are just a villain. That they're just bad. They only want bad things. There's no sophistication at all, and they're still fucking compelling, right? And there are villains who are great villains because they're very sophisticated, because they are making rational arguments for why they do the things that oppose the hero. And that's interesting too. So I think a great villain can run the gamut of that spectrum. But each villain has to be judged by the thing the villain is trying to do, right? Is this a simple, straightforward villain who just opposes the hero, but they're awesome? That's still a great villain. If you're trying to do the sophisticated villain and trying to give them a sophisticated backstory and you fuck it up, even though the villain is trying to be sophisticated, it's still a bad villain. Just the fact that he's trying to do sophisticated storytelling doesn't mean it achieves that or succeeds. So I think when you talk about villains, you really can only compare them to the thing they're trying to be.
Do you remember the first time you were more interested in the villain than the protagonist in a movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people my age, your age too, that first time is when we saw Darth Vader. And Darth Vader's not sophisticated. When he shows up in Star Wars, there's no sophistication to him, but he's a badass outfit. He's an awesome outfit. He looks awesome. He has that great James Earl Jones voice. He's like force choking dudes. He's picking people up by the throat. He's terrifying, right? So even though he has no personality of any kind in Star Wars. There's no personality by Darth Vader. He's just a big scary guy in a black suit. Even though that's true, something about the design of him and the way he behaved in the story made him very compelling to young me watching Star Wars. He was way more interesting than Luke.
Would you say he becomes more sophisticated once we find out his ties?
I think they tried to make him more sophisticated, and every time they do, they make him worse. Mm-hmm. He is a bad guy who is worsened by the attempts to make him sophisticated.
Right. Yeah, I think like Zod and his two goons in Superman, I think that they are the less sophisticated version of the, and they're so much fun. I think even in this list, I think there is heavyweight bad guys that scare you, and that and then there's the fun bad guys like Hans Gruber and Die Hard. Right. You know.
Well, and a great example of the unsophisticated but compelling bad guy is one of your and my favorites, which is the Lord Humongous. The Lord Humongous has no sophistication. The Lord Humongous is not like, he doesn't have a tragic backstory that he's explaining why he's a bad guy. He's just the biggest, scariest dude in the wasteland. He wants all your shit, and he's big and scary enough to take all your shit. And that's it. That's the entire story of Lord Humongous.
Dude, I think that George Miller has a unique knack for these sort of things because Lord Humongous, there's a sense of humor to the universe of Mad Max. Yep. And it's very specific to George Miller. It has a very specific tone. I think it would probably be incredibly tricky for somebody to try to mimic it. But Lord Humongous comes on the screen and you're full of questions. Right. You're like, who is this guy? Why is he wearing underwear? And why is he wearing a hockey mask? And why is he oiled up? Who oils him up? And then what is the big speaker that he's giving the speech? And does he think he's saying like profound thing? I think he does think he's saying really meaningful and profound. Well, I think he thinks he's a philosopher on the wasteland.
Okay, you know how beautiful people are stupid because nobody argues with them, and so they think they're geniuses. Lord Humongous has never been argued with. When Lord Humongous spews out his philosophy, nobody in that camp is going, I think you're wrong, Humongous. I think that's an unsophisticated view. Because he would just pull them in half. Right?
Yeah, that is a great, like if you were directing that movie, that would be the note you would give to that actor. Yeah. You would say that nobody argues with you, so you haven't had to level up your arguments. No. You think you're naturally brilliant. So when you're giving these speeches, you're like, all right, guys, I got this. Give me the mic, and I'm going to talk them out of this. And as soon as they get out of here, I'm going to fool them, and then we're going to kill them all. Okay? Yep. Like, yeah, that's great.
And even if the guys that work for him are like, that's a dumb plan, I don't think it's going to work, they're not going to say that out loud. They're just going to hand him the microphone and get out of the way. But there's also, in the design of him, and this is the way in which very separate characters like Darth Vader and the Lord Humongous have a commonality. So Darth Vader's scary because his costume is scary and he's tall and all that, right? Lord Humongous is scary because he's this hugely muscular guy with this hockey mask on, but his hair is all falling out. Like when they show the back of his head, he looks like someone who's dying of an illness. Right? So there's this combination of, is he big like that because he's full of radiation? Right. Like, did he get mutated by radiation? That's why he wears a mask. Is he
wearing a mask because his nose is falling off? Is his face deformed? Yeah. Yeah, that's and the weirdness to him. So even when he's giving this speech over the loud, his gestures aren't really matching what he's saying. He's just like, like flexing and doing that stuff. He's flexing. And,
he's the guy. He's the joke guy who the joke is like, the bodybuilder, and people are like, where's the thing? It's over there, right? It's that joke version. He's like, you should leave because I will come in. And he's like flexing at the camera the whole time, which seems silly, but somehow coming from this hugely muscular dude whose hair is all falling out from radiation poisoning and wears a mask to hide his face, it's still terrifying, right?
Right.
Like I'm worried that I would start laughing and then he would just kill me.
Right.
Like he'd be doing that. I'd start laughing. It'd be like, who's that fucker's laughing at me? And then he would just pull my spine out. But yeah, I think as storytelling got more sophisticated, that desire to understand the villain's actions got more sophisticated and villains got more sophisticated. But that doesn't mean that every villain has to be sophisticated. There's still the joy of simple storytelling. There's still the joy of Mad Max wants to get some gasoline and escape the wasteland. Lord Humongous is in his way, the antagonist, trying to stop him from doing it, right? There's still joy to be had in that. Luke Skywalker wants to beat the Empire. Darth Vader is the avatar of the Empire who wants to beat Luke Skywalker. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay that it's that simple. The white hats and the black hats. So I don't want to give the impression that in order for a villain to be good, they have to be this like modern, super sophisticated, very nuanced version of villainy. I don't think it has to be that. And no, our favorite villain, other than Joseph, is Hans Gruber, right? I mean, Hans just wants to be rich. He just wants to steal a bunch of money, blow everybody up, and take his money and earn 20% on the beach. That's what he wants, right?
And they kind of make a comment on that because they act like they have some political reason or whatever, and he's like, "We just want the money.
We just want the money."
We just want the money.
Yeah, and when she's like, "You're not a terrorist. You're just a thief," and he goes, "I am an exceptional thief." He takes pride. He takes pride in his work. Yeah.
Right. I do think that it's the alchemy of what the story needs.
Yeah.
Right. And if they meet that, then that could be a great villain. So if somebody watches Heath Ledger as the Joker and they're like, this is a fucking great bad guy, and then they mimic that in the story that they're telling, and it's like, well, no, he's great for that story. And so if you take...
And it's a sign of how bad Joseph is at his job that Heath Ledger's Joker doesn't seem to be on this list. What the fuck, man?
I did not include him because this is bad guys and their squads. But yeah, that's why I was like, is Darth Vader more Emperor Palpatine's henchman?
I mean, I don't think you could argue that any of the stormtroopers have any personality.
True, I would agree.
Well, then I understand. Then that makes me understand why the Terminator's not on this list.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say.
But Skynet should be.
Okay, Skynet is the villain. And the Terminators are the henchmen. Okay,
yeah,
I'm adding it.
That is true. Skynet is the villain, and they do have a bunch of Terminators as the henchmen. But I was looking at this list, and now it makes sense because I was like, surely this can't be the whole list. I have like all these ideas that are coming, but Joseph, it's smart to make it as specific as possible because it would take us 4 days to do if you actually included all of the things.
So if what we're looking for is we're looking for bad guys that are elevated by how great their squad is, I think Lord Humongous still is on that list for me because all of the bikers in Humongous's gang are individual. They're weird looking. They all have their own stuff going on. That's a very cool gang, right?
It's a very cool gang.
Obviously, Hans Gruber, all the guys in the terrorist group are awesome. For me, another one that would be on that list is Thulsa Doom because he has the best team ever. He's got Rexor and Thorgrim, those two badass dudes who are helping him murder guys.
Well, I do think we could make this more specific. I think the list should be fun bad guys and seriously like you're scared of them bad guys. Because it would feel weird to me if Pinhead was on that list because Pinhead is a whole different experience.
Yeah.
Like Pinhead would definitely be number one on the scary, like legit real.
On the things that scare Wes.
Yeah. The Pinhead scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And there's something about him. Once he comes out, you were fucked. Like there's no escaping him.
On the fun side, I mean, Thulsa Doom and his team are great. I also think Yeah, Lopan and his team are great. The lightning dude and the dude who explodes. I mean, those are badass dudes, man, and they're awesome.
Yeah, a runner-up would be Johnny Lawrence from Karate Kid. He makes me laugh when I watch that movie. I think he's so funny. And he's so much fun that they have a successful series based just on how fun he really was.
My question for you is Johnny Lawrence the bad guy or is the teacher the bad guy? Because Johnny Lawrence, I think, is a henchman to the teacher.
That's a nice little twist you threw there. I mean, the reality is it's the teacher, because at the end, he's like, you deserve it, man. And he held the trophy up with him.
Yep.
So the reality is it is the teacher.
Have you guys ever seen the deep dive where they made Daniel out to be the actual antagonist and the villain, and Johnny Lawrence was just defending himself?
Yeah.
And it was like, it was Daniel that was instigating everything, and he just got what he deserved.
Was it like a re-edit of the movie?
Yeah. They it was like a commentary where, like saying how he was having some relational problems with his girlfriend, and then Daniel interjected himself.
And Daniel Russo shows up and starts hitting on his girlfriend.
Butts in. I'll have to send it to you. It's definitely fun.
That's great. So and we got to just throw a shout out to Big Trouble in Little China, because that's the funnest of the fun bad guys. Lopan is awesome. He's got glowing green eyes, long fingernails that shoot out lasers.
Awesome.
Yeah, great henchman. Really great henchman. Okay, so I would put Pinhead in the scary ones.
Also, I think so. I see Calvin Candy from Django Unchained on this list. I agree with the Django Unchained thing. I think you picked the wrong guy. I don't think it's Calvin. I think Samuel L. Jackson is the main antagonist of Django Unchained.
I kind of agree with you with that one. I was like, Candy is not as bad as him.
No, Calvin Candy is a product of his upbringing. Calvin Candy he's the rich white dude in slavery South who has only been rich in the slavery South and just thinks that's the way it works. Now, is he a piece of shit? Absolutely. He is absolutely a piece of shit. He's making the slaves fight each other to the death. That's a shitty thing to do. He's a terrible human being. But the really nasty person is the Samuel L. Jackson character. The one who's, not only is he doing all the same nasty shit that Calvin Candy does, but he's doing it to his own people, the people he should be sympathetic to. Like, he's the worst, I think.
Belloc didn't really have a crew, because he wasn't really riding with the Germans, the Nazis.
Yeah, he was cooperating with the Nazis, but they didn't really report to him. He wasn't their boss. Yeah,
he wasn't. He was like there was like a mutual beneficiary relationship.
He was an evil consultant.
Yeah. Yes. He was a freelancer of evil.
He was a freelance
in
evil.
that.
Yeah.
Freelance evil. What about Nurse Ratched in the Cuckoo's Nest? I think Nurse
Ratched would belong on the scary serious list.
Yeah. And she had henchmen, the nurses that did whatever she said.
Yeah. I agree with that. She's legitimately terrifying. Because,
oh my God.
Because
she's so terrifying.
You have no power. She has all the power. Right. And she will fuck you up. She's like, oh, I don't like him, so I'm going to have him lobotomized. Jesus Christ.
Cool. This is a fun one. Oh, Roy Batty, dude. He's got a great gang with him. I mean, I'd put him in the cool, but
I would replace Skynet. I think Roy Batty's better than Skynet.
Yeah. Good call.
Because yes, Roy Batty's a great antagonist. He's also on the more sophisticated side. We understand why he's the bad guy. We get it. We're sympathetic to his desires and what he's trying to achieve, which makes him a little bit more sophisticated than some of the others. And his henchmen, even though they're scary, I mean, they're terrifying when they're attacking you. They're also kind of sad. There's a sadness to them,
and childlike.
We feel sorry for them. Yeah, we feel sorry for them.
Like if you were, if we came to you right now and said, Ty, you're actually a replicant. All those memories of your wife and living in, whatever you have, your house, that's all, we all implanted that. That's not real. You're really a replicant. you'd be pissed off too. And you probably, and then, oh, by the way, you're dying in 2 years. You'd probably go find the creator of Ty and smash his eyes out as well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'd be upset about it. I mean, I wouldn't be upset about the memories they implanted, because what they implanted was I get lucky all the time and I always win at everything. I like that. It shows that story for me. Thank you, memory implanters. Like, my wife is better looking than me. I always succeed in every business I try to do. I love that story. Thank you, guys.
You've always known something was up. So like now it all makes sense.
None of this makes any sense without that story. But the other side of it, when they go, oh, and you die in 2 years, then I gotta smash you. Yeah, I would say on the scary and serious bad guy list, for me, I think the Alien Queen is terrifying.
And she rolls with some pretty deadly henchmen.
Her squad is no slouches.
Yeah, no scratch. If you had to live in an alternate reality where there was two squads, there's two realities, and there's a squad in each reality that was coming after you, and one was the Alien Queen and her crew, or Pinhead and his crew, what would you take?
I would go Alien Queen, because I think my death is quick with the Alien Queen.
Yeah.
I think she pierces me with her tail and rips me in half. I'm not an android. So that kills me immediately.
Right.
I don't like this idea that I get drug off to hell and pulled apart by fish for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah. I'm going Alien Queen all day long, because they don't really care about torturing you.
No,
they just want
to
you
hurt
dead.
you. They just want to kill you or implant you or whatever.
Yeah. They just want dead. But what about if you had to get face fucked by the alien?
When you get face fucked, you're in a coma, because we see that with the character.
You've given this some thought, Ty.
You're in a coma, so you don't know you're being face fucked. Yeah, and then you get implanted. When the thing bursts out of you, that's gonna suck, but it's quick.
Yeah, right? Dude, I would get face fucked all day long before I would even go anywhere near Pinhead.
Before you would get pulled apart by fish hooks?
Yeah. Yeah, face fuck me, alien. And then I'll give birth to your alien baby.
I mean, on the scale of shitty things to have happen to you, it's interesting that there is a level above I get face fucked and give birth to an alien baby from my chest, is a lower level than anything. And the truth is, it's a lower level than a demon takes me to hell and fish hooks me for 1,000 years. Well, let's talk about the other real quick. Go down the list. I mean, I like Alex from Clockwork Orange. I think he's a fascinating character. But I think in many senses, the point of Clockwork Orange is that the society that they have created is really the villain of that story, and that Alex, rather than being a cause, is a symptom of the ways in which that society has failed. So I think he's a fascinating character, but I think he's less. Bellic
he's less the villain. He's a victim of the society. Yeah,
he's one of the victims of that society, of that culture.
Right.
Bellic is an awesome bad guy, but doesn't really have a
Biff doesn't have a crew.
He does have a crew.
Who?
He's got his little gang.
Dude, he had Billy Zane.
Yeah, he had the guy with the 3D glasses. He had a crew,
whole crew.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking Weird Science for a second.
No. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the Back to the Future. Oh, I see. Oh, fucking Biff. He's got. I was thinking off Weird Science, and I was like, he's by himself with a jarhead haircut. And
for me, in that way, Calvin Candy and Samuel L. Jackson character in Django Unchained kind of share that same space of the thing that you do to slaves is you take away body autonomy. They have no choice over what they do with their bodies. And that's pretty terrifying. And when they capture Django at the end, or toward the end, the first thing they're talking about doing is cutting his nuts off. And he has no say over that. He has no choice over that. And there's no law stopping them from doing it. If they want to cut his nuts off, they just can. That's pretty scary.
And I think an extension of that is sexual violence, right? When somebody's doing something to your body that you have zero control over.
And that's his wife's story, where they've turned her into what he called a comfort girl, where her job is to be a sex object for other people on the plantation. That's all terrifying. That's terrifying stuff. And last time when we talked about Immaculate and Rosemary's Baby, that's one of the things we talked about there is how part of the horror of the story is taking away their bodily autonomy. Cyrus the Virus, I think Con Air is very silly. I know some people are fans of it. I think it's super silly.
You think Con Air is silly? I think that is the point.
I think Thrawn is a superb bad guy, and I think he's got the best henchman in the galaxy. Yeah, I think he's a must.
I think the book version of Thrawn is really great. I think the screen version of Thrawn loses
here we go.
by the poor acting in the part of the henchman. I think the people who were playing Thrawn's henchmen on the show did a disservice to the greatness of the novel.
Dude, I haven't had a chance yet. You're like, yeah, you're mask acting. I haven't had a chance yet. Give me a chance. I love Zod. I think we have the fun ones. They have all the fun
Zod
ones.
Is great, and I think Zod has two great henchmen. I love Immortan Joe. I think the gang that it follows Immortan Joe around, including the dude with the flaming guitar playing rock music as they drive around, that dude is the greatest fucking dude ever, right?
Yeah.
Like if I make it to the apocalypse, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy riding around on the big stack of amps, just rocking the fuck out as everybody else is fighting or whatever.
Man, the henchman is really kind of throws off.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to go Emperor Palpatine, right? Because, he's got the greatest henchman of all time. Yeah,
but I don't love Emperor Palpatine. I think he's kind of a terrible character.
That's a good point. All right.
I would, if over Emperor Palpatine, I would pick Thanos, because Thanos, at least in the first Infinity War movie, Thanos is a pretty great bad guy.
Yeah. Okay. Throw him up there.
And has a pretty great squad of guys running around with him.
So if we would move anybody to the serious, would you consider Thulsa? I mean, he does behead people.
I think Thulsa Doom could go down in the serious bad guy thing.
I do consider him serious.
Thulsa Doom's way of killing you is he nails you to a fucking tree. That's pretty terrifying.
Tree of woe.
The Tree of Woe. What about Saruman? I'm a big fan of Saruman, played by the incredible Christopher Lee. He's got a big gang of henchmen. You don't love Saruman?
No, I do. Yeah. I liked how you threw out the big gang of henchmen.
Yeah. All his Uruk-hai. Also one of the great antagonists in a movie is the Uruk-hai that Saruman sends after them, that has the white hand on his face, the one that winds up fighting Aragorn at the end. That's one of the great, and he doesn't have any lines, but he's one of the great antagonists in film.
That's a good point. That's a good.
And he's scary and serious. Like if I ran into that dude and he wanted my ass, I think he's getting my ass. I don't think there's anything I could do about that.
If he wanted my ass, he's getting my ass.
Because I don't think there's anything I could do about that guy. Like I'm not Aragorn.
Listen,
I don't have like a magic sword and ancient powers. I'm just some dude. If that dude shows up and starts beating me, I'm just getting beat.
So I think Lord of the Rings is a great call because it's one of the most it's up there with Star Wars and the most iconic good and evil face off with each other with like the classic pure evil bad guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think this is a good list, and of course Hans is in the 0 spot. I mean, you can't touch Hans.
Well, I mean, yes, we say Hans, but actually what we mean is the entire Gruber family.
Yes, the Gruber family. Well, let's see what the patrons had. Obviously, they only had one list,
Yep.
so there was
Yep.
no serious.
Well, let's see
fun.
what-
So
let's
then
see
we
what
have
they
a
like.
good shot at getting them all.
But I mean, this one is the big outlier. But I mean, look at they're
Yeah, pretty
Pretty
close.
good.
Pretty good.
pretty darn good.
Yeah. Now, here's the question looking at this list, Wes. Who would win a fight, the Alien Queen or Lopan?
Magic, I don't know.
I mean, my first instinct was like, oh, the alien would fucking, but he's got magic, you know?
He does have magic.
Still, though, you let the aliens loose down in those tunnels over there, it is
Yeah.
fucking over. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for exploring bad guys, the dark side with us. We love you and we miss you. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.